Good evening. My name is Steve Corona. I'm the Vice President of the School Board, and welcome to this meeting of the Fort Wayne Community Schools Board of Trustees. Our President, Julie Hollingsworth, is not with us this evening. And before you meet the other members of the board who are present, we're going to stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, I hope everybody had a great holiday, didn't eat too much, and we're ready to go on another couple of weeks before we move to Christmas, which is always fun. And let's meet the members of our board.
Good evening. I'm Glenna Yale from the 2nd District.
Tom Smith, 3rd District.
Maria Norman, Member at Large.
Ann Duff, Member at Large.
Jordan Lebemoff is not with us. Not sure if he's going to be joining us late or will not be present, but also with us this evening is Dr. Wendy Robinson, our superintendent, and clerk of the board, Janet Doherty. First two items under awards and recognition. It's recommended that the board recognize the marching bands from Northrop and Snyder High School for placing in the top 10 in the state competition. Students from around the state participated in the Scholastic A Marching Band competition on October the 27th, and we have members of both bands present. As you might expect, this is a busy time of the year, so we're going to introduce the drum majors. They may or may not be here, but at least you'll get to hear their names. From Northrop, which placed 7th, drum majors Kaylee Millage, Brenna Shirk, and Carter Bussard. The Northrop Band Director is Robert Wilson, and Jason Witzegruder is the principal at Northrop High School. Photos and parents, do not be bashful. Please step forward. We want to see these on Facebook and other places.
Stand still, friends of parents. Other parents?
Congratulations. So how many hours of practice does the band commit to during the fall and before this competition, Bob? Can you want to step to the microphone here?
Wait.
How many hours? Do you want to say how many hours?
For what?
For how many hours of practice?
Every day after school?
We practiced almost, what was it? Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then sometimes Fridays. Tuesdays and Thursdays were about 3 hours apiece. Depending on the day, I should say. And then Fridays, if we had football games, it seemed like forever. And then usually they were about 2 hours. And then Saturdays, of course, were competition days, and those seemed to last from when we woke up to when we fell asleep.
So what's the next event you prepare for?
The next event, I think we prepare for our Yuletide concert, I believe, which is in December. Yep. So, yeah.
And we can buy tickets, or is it a free concert?
I think we have to buy tickets at that one.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Congratulations.
I just have to say, I invited Northrop on the way home. The football team's gone, the stadium is dark, those kids are out there. And on Saturdays, it's more than 3 hours. They are there forever, so I don't think band parents know how much time it takes. But they are phenomenal.
Well, there's more than one way to get to the Rose Bowl. You don't have to be in the football team, right? Okay, Snyder finishing 10th place. Snyder is not here, but let's introduce at least the members who we were going to see. Alexandra Moss, Emily Stetka, Dakota Siebert. They are the drum majors for Snyder. Kevin Klee and Helen Hockemeyer are the band directors. Parker Sterling is the student teacher, and Chad Hissong is the principal. Snyder finishing 10th this year in state competition. Okay, we'll get their certificates of recognition to them. Is that correct? All right. It's also recommended that we recognize the marching band from Northside High School. They participated in a different level of competition, and this was just a few weeks ago. This was the open class marching band, November the 3rd. And let's introduce the representatives of the Northside Band, which again finished in 6th place in the open Class B competition. Drum majors John Miley, Zara McCord, and Nathan Quaintance. Did I say that your last name right, Nathan? Mom is shaking her head too. Got it correct. Ed King is the band director. I saw him sneak in with a Cubs hat, so he's always welcome in the boardroom. Marcus Fair is the assistant band director, and David West is the principal.
I see them too out there as long as the Norfolk group. I have to go down Parnell to see them. They also are very good at selling car wash tickets. Scoot over. One more.
Parents get that good shot.
Is he complaining?
He just wants to make sure he gets his.
Thank you, sir. Is that it?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Ed, a couple. Ed, if I could ask you to come to the microphone, tell me a little bit about the competition this year.
What, this is, how many times, 37?
Yes.
37th time we got to state finals. And we did really well at the regional. We had the great draw of going on first at regionals. So
That's not a good spot to go.
that's not a good spot to be, but the kids, they performed really well. We did a show about the music of David Bowie, and we did it about Space Odyssey and that kind of deal. It was kind of cool. I really liked it this year, a whole bunch. And they performed. I thought this was the best state finals they've done maybe since the 80s. They really performed well. They finished third in music. We had 5 of the 6 judges had us in the top 5. We had 2 of them had us third, 1 had us fourth, 2 of them had us 5th, and then one guy had us 10th, and that kept us from being in the top 4. So, but they really performed great. They were fantastic.
And what is your next event? Do you have another event coming up?
Oh, well, you mean like a spaghetti dinner or something like that? We have
Who's asking you to play?
no. The next thing we do is a concert in December. We do a concert, but we have our craft bazaar on Saturday. So that's one of our fundraisers that we do, for, to pay the bills. So.
While we have you up there, would you please share with the board and others the connection you have with Be Instrumental, in particular Lakeside?
Well, I go there every day or every other day.
Just kind of explain what you do.
Part of my job, my teaching load is to go to the middle schools during the first period. And today, I worked at Lakeside with the saxophones, and the band directors will tell me what they want me to work on. But that's been a great thing. I wasn't sure. I've taught high school for 46 years. I wasn't sure it was going to be a lot of fun, but I found out that middle school kids were pretty cool. So it was a lot of fun, or is a lot of fun too. And at least they know who I am now, instead of, they have no idea who I was before, but I think it helps a little bit, so.
So you're in the recruiting business these days?
Well,
Big time.
I'm in the business, I'm in the music business, so it's all the same thing, but that's really been helpful for our program. A lot of our kids don't, when I was in the band, the kids bought their own horns. Now that's pretty rare. So Be Instrumental is kind of important for us, real important for us. So and they're buying good instruments, and the kids, I think the kids are taking pretty good care of them. So it's a great program for us.
Great.
How many
Thanks.
kids at Lakeside fan? Because it's one of the largest. We have Lakeside and
Well, it's the smallest middle school program, or the smallest middle school of all of them, I think.
Right, but how many?
But he's got, I don't know, he's got 60-some kids in the first period, or in the third period band, and he's got a bunch that comes in that are beginning 7th and 8th graders that come in after that class. So we were up to 90 kids in our concert band at Northside, in the advanced concert band. And I think when Ann was there, we had 112, and I think that's the biggest concert band we ever had. They were going out the door.
It was that flute section at
Well, it must have
Over.
been, yeah. But we had kids out the doorway in the old band room, and yeah, it's kind of cool.
Ann Duff is a former student of yours?
Yes.
And did she have first chair in the flute section?
I don't know about that,
I just remember you always saying, flutes, tone it down, because we had so many
but we
flutes.
had a lot of
in my-
flutes. Well, like this year, we
Flutes
marched
tone it
5 tubas, and when Ann was in band, we marched 4 tubas, but we had over 200 kids in the band. So there were a lot of flutes. There were 30-some flutes, I think. This year, I think we marched 15.
But I also want to acknowledge Dave West is standing there. The principals have really worked hard to get the schedules together, and we've made a commitment, and it's paying off because community members are donating to the cause. And I just wanted to publicly thank both of them, because it wouldn't happen if he didn't have the schedule fixed so that Ed could go over, but it's paying off. It really is. So thank you again.
All right.
Thanks for being with us.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. We moved to the consent agenda on our meeting this evening, and there are the 3 items that we normally see: the approval of minutes, and these are the minutes from November the 12th, vouchers and payroll approval for the periods ending November the 26th, and the payroll for the period ending October 26th, and then finally is the personnel report. And what is the pleasure of the board this evening? Would you like to
I move approval.
move approval?
Second.
And seconded. Is there any discussion on these 3 items? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Robinson, any comments on any activities on personnel?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We move to new business. We have a change order before us. It's recommended that the board approve the following change orders, and this is from the 2018 Capital Projects Fund: physical improvement projects and basic renewal, restoration, and safety projects. And you have several items on both sides of the paper, and with each item is the amount that's been added or deducted, the percentage change, and then the total on the back reflects an amount of $14,392,917, and that is actually in sum a deduction of a little better than $200,000, or a change of about not a change of about, but exactly 1.49%. And I know that Darren Hess is here and can talk to us about any of those specific changes about projects and work. Is there a motion and second on this item?
Move for approval.
Moved by Glenna, seconded by Ann. Any comments for Darren about these?
Am I reading this correctly? I just want to make sure. The top project is an addition, and then the rest of them are, well, I probably just said that backwards, didn't I?
No, the one project at the top was an added change order. The rest of them are all deducts.
Okay, that's what okay. I read that correctly then. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Darren. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. It's recommended the board ratify the transfer of right-of-way to the city of Fort Wayne for a sidewalk improvement project. It's further recommended that the superintendent or her designee be authorized to sign the appropriate documents. and take necessary steps to complete the transfer and grant the City of Fort Wayne the temporary license to enter the property for the purpose of constructing a portion of a sidewalk improvement project, otherwise known as the St. Joe Center Sidewalk Project, over and under the easement area. And you have additional information that's more technical in nature about the property and its proximity to our school there. It does indicate that the city is going to give us a little money for some work that they're going to be involved in there. $2,800 they're giving us for the relocation of our sign and landscaping bed. Motion and a second on this item?
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions for Darren? I just have one question. Do we know when this work is scheduled, Darren?
I've been told it's through engineering, and they're going to start construction next season in 2019.
Okay.
I think that depends, obviously, if they were able to secure all the right-of-way.
No inconvenience to our parents or students with this work?
Should not be. In fact, it should be a convenience. That's why we're supporting it.
Okay.
There wasn't a sidewalk there before?
There's a sidewalk on our property, but from other adjacent sides of it, we don't have sidewalk that connects to other neighborhoods. So there's a sidewalk now up to our driveway, and that comes in a semicircle by our bus lane and then over. So this will actually connect that all now.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional questions? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. It's recommended the board approve an award to Excelify Solutions LLC from New York City to provide Medicaid reimbursement services for a 3-year period effective January 1 of 2019 and continuing through December 31st, 2021. Is there a motion for this item and a second?
Move approval.
Moved by Maria
Second.
and a second by Ann. Eligible health-related services included speech language therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, social work, and individual psychological evaluations for special ed students, as well as transportation services to access these services. Reimbursed funds will support special education expenditures that would otherwise be paid from the education fund. Excelify Solutions provides a web-based solution for inputting data for eligible services. Their fee is based on a flat rate of 2.5% of reimbursed claims during the 3-year contract and a $25,000 recurring annual fee for software license fees. There's also a one-time fee of $10,000 to implement this project with us. Nikki Sprunger, our Director of Special Education, is here with us to answer any questions you might have of her.
Where's Nikki?
Questions?
Is Nikki?
Do we need to move approval?
Nikki?
Do we have a motion on the floor? I think we do.
We
don't
are.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, we did. Okay. That's right. Sorry.
Oh, okay, Nikki. So if you add up all these fees, 10,000 and then 25,000 for the next 3 years, plus the 2.5%, we must have an awful lot of Medicaid eligible services going on.
Yes, we do. Approximately, when we were getting the RFP ready, it was about 40% of our students were Medicaid eligible.
Okay, and then this covers not just the therapies, but also transportation to get them back
Yes.
and forth, say, to Park Center or other places?
Well, our transportation, our preschool students, our special education transportation, our extended school year services during the summer, all of those are Medicaid eligible for reimbursement.
Okay.
Other questions? Do you happen to know offhand what the last 3 years has been with respect to reimbursement? Or would
Yes.
Kathy know that
And
that
Rob
number?
has those. Last year, okay.
And I think this goes to
In-
Glennie's question, that this is,
In
I
seven-
believe, a fairly substantial amount.
Yes, in 17, it was $803,000. In 16, $444,000, and in 15, $974,000. So it is substantial.
Any other questions for Nikki? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor of the recommendation, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I happen to know the National Business Development Manager for Excelify, and they're quite excited, and I know that they are picking up a substantial amount of business around the country, so it seems to me that they must be doing pretty good work, so happy to, I told him he needs to be here and come to one of our board meetings, but I think they're going to, this is going to be a good relationship for us. Okay, we move on. It's recommended that the board approve Symetra as the group life insurance carrier, and this is for a 3-year term beginning February 1st, 2019, and then continuing through January 31st of 2022. Is there a motion and a second on this recommendation?
I move approval.
Moved by
Second.
Tom,
Second.
second by Glenna. The Symetra proposal is intended to match the in-force benefits. The 3-year guarantee for life insurance is 0.083 cents per $1,000 of coverage. This represents a 5.7% reduction compared to our current rates. The 3-year rate for the accidental death and dismemberment will remain at, is that a penny per $1,000 of coverage? Is that, I'm reading that right?
Yeah.
1 cent? Quotes were solicited from 14 companies, including MetLife, the incumbent carrier. MetLife's best renewal offer for life was 0.101 cents per $1,000, which was a 15% increase. And then their renewal offer for the accidental death and dismemberment was to hold the current rate. And those rates were only guaranteed for a year. So there you have additional information about this. Any questions about this? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. It's recommended the board approve the qualification for and acceptance of the Refugee School Impact Grant for the current school year, and that's in the amount of $17,243.55, and this is from the Indiana Department of Education. A motion and second on this item?
So
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Tom, seconded by Maria. Funds from this grant will allow for the continuation of a range of supplemental services for our refugee students who are limited English proficient within their first 2 years in this country. The grant supports interpreters to provide ongoing support for the students and their families, supplemental instruction materials, and personnel and materials to support family engagement through home visits. And Emily Schwartz-Kearns is here to answer any of our questions. She is the ELL manager for our district. Any questions about this? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. It's recommended the board approve the appointment of EduShift, Inc. for evaluation and technical services for the U.S. Department of Education Magnet Schools Assistance Program grant project titled SEEK, Successful Equity for Excellent Kids, for a 5-year period for a total amount of $1,250,000. Is there a motion and second on this item?
So moved.
Moved
Second.
by Ann, seconded by Maria, is that correct? EduShift is an experienced research evaluation organization that will provide process outcome evaluation of the grant, including measurement of multiple performance indicators. Expenses include consultant fees for evaluators, statisticians, research assistants, travel, office, and computer-related expense. Evaluation will serve the 5 schools and the central office. ESI will also provide program and technical assistance, including but not limited to planning activities, budgeting, implementation, guidance, research, problem solving, and Partner Communications. Get Nichols is here to answer any questions from the board on this contract.
Yeah, I had some questions. $50,000 per site, are the consultants coming in?
They are working with us at central office to help
Okay.
keep up with the outcomes, the measures, and to create a report. The USDOE will require a report on how we spend the money and also on the projects that we've implemented and follow up with that.
They're less coming. The Carol Goose is the one who's here all the time. She meets with us once a month, and as we talked a little bit about, we're trying to collect all that together so that we can be consistent. All of those people, let me say this right, I think they're called GIPers. The people aren't called GIPers, but there is a long list of statistical analysis of how you implement your grant, that we need a Carol and all those people to do the statistical analysis. And when the federal government gives you a grant, it almost doesn't matter what grant. It's almost the same kind of work. And they have the formulas and they have the relationships with the federal people. So it's to our advantage to have someone, they don't come here, like we don't have statisticians come, but like Jack provides information from our systems and they take it and analyze it and gives it back to the federal government in the formula that they want. And with those GIPers, and then there are some grant objectives that, you know, it's like the funding formula for the school formula. If we told you how it worked, we'd probably have to kill you. It's complicated, and that's why we use this organization, and she's a nationally based. So somebody could be working on helping us analyze the GIPR stuff, and they're in California. So they don't travel here, but we're paying for the network services and having people who actually know how to talk to people in Washington. And for example, when we're on a phone call, what is it, once a month or twice a month, like with the peer grant even, Carol is always there, and she helps answer those technical questions in the language that the federal government wants. So she doesn't evaluate whether we did it right. She evaluates whether we have complied with the technical aspects, because if you don't do it right the first year, they don't give you the money the second year.
Got it.
And so, does that make sense?
Yes.
So I think when I answered, I kind of said, evaluator is their term. And they kind of tell you what to do, and then they tell you the percent to pay them.
Got
That
it.
make sense?
Yes, okay.
So essentially, Carol is the person who works for this company, but she helps take all the information, all the different things you're doing, and shows that we are meeting the requirements of the objectives of the grant that we had won at
Right.
some point.
Right.
And then as long as we are kosher with the federal government, then we can renew.
For the next year.
Right.
And what we're starting to see happen, especially with the Magna grant, Ged just got back, the federal government is becoming more restrictive. Like in the past, like when you wrote the grant, they let you make some adjustments. Now it is, you wrote this down, that's what you have to do. So a person like Carol kind of helps us talk grant language and keeps us out of trouble. She says stuff to us like, I wouldn't do that if I were you. This is really what they're going to expect, and this is how it should look when you send it to them. And then she's on the phone calls with the federal government. So we can't change her title because that's what they call her, but she's kind of helping us make sure we get the money the next year.
Where is EduShift based? And how large are they, I guess?
They're in, do you know?
Carol's actually here.
She's here, but where's
She
EduShift?
has here,
Okay.
but she has folks who work with her and for her across the nation.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
We can kind of gather some of that, because at one point we did have to do that, like for the bios of people working on the grants. So we'll share that with you, but just know she has all these people everywhere who work on the same kind of grants all over the country. So there are other people that work with her, that work with other people in other cities that got a Magna grant. And so the value is, they kind of keep track of what kind of things the federal government lets you do and not do. And her coming, we just started this year with her coming to our cabinet meetings and planning, and she's invaluable in helping us figure out, well, you know, this is what you can pay out of this grant. You could also probably try to pay out of this grant, because she knows how to talk between the federal agencies. And that's what she gets the money for.
EduShift has no responsibility with respect to the operation or management of the programs.
None.
And I think there was some question raised about the appropriateness, because they also wrote the grant, and I know they have an excellent record in grant writing. So in not running the program, it is an appropriate role for her to then also serve as evaluator. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
The other part is she knows us, and the reason we keep getting grants is that she knows Fort Wayne enough to write the grant in the language. And we've been blessed to have her, because she just knows how to write them, and we get them.
Well, that's a real skill in
It
knowing
is a skill.
what the feds want when you're
Yeah.
putting together a multi-million-dollar proposal.
I know since she wrote the grant, she know what it was intended to be used for, and then she can report back whether it was used properly,
Right.
and then the results, whatever results, and how we, as a district, can measure meaningful items so that we can report back what they're looking for. And without that link, we would be kind of, well, we'd probably be struggling a little bit more to make the government happy with us.
Well, we couldn't hire anybody of Carol's caliber, and it wouldn't make sense to have somebody of her caliber on staff.
No.
Because if you don't have a grant, so the relationship has been very beneficial to all of us, and Carol's been working with us for eons. Her children graduated from the district, so there's a commitment there to making it work, but she has a national reputation that has helped us and served us well.
She wrote the Small and Running Communities.
Yeah.
That we had years ago.
Yeah, way back, so.
Any other questions on this recommendation? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This is part two, probably. It's recommended that the board approve the appointment of EduShift for evaluation and technical services for another federal grant, and this is the Gaining Early Awareness and Readiness for Undergraduate Programs, Fort Wayne, otherwise known by the acronym GEAR Up. This grant is for a 7-year period with EduShift, and this is for $1.9 million, actually $1,925,000, and you have the supporting documentation. Again, it's very similar, the role that EduShift will play with respect to Fort Wayne Community Schools. Do we have a motion and a second on this one? I don't believe we do.
No. Move approval.
Moved by Maria, seconded
Second.
by Ann. Any questions about this contract?
Hey, can you remind us totally what we could get over 7 years?
The first year, we are receiving a little over $3 million, and with the potential of $3 million each year for 7 years. The grant actually started the 1st of October.
Nice.
But they adjust that each year, but we could get a potential of $3 million each year.
And then the magnet grant, what was the total?
It's a 5 million, 15 millions, 3 million per year, I'm sorry, so it's a 15 million grant.
So that's 15 million over 5. So that's why you have somebody like Carol.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I asked a question prior to, and so I just wanted to make sure that, because when you're reading this, it's over $3 million in fees, but then when we have to ensure that we get pass it the first year to ensure that we get the additional funding year after year, and the total amounts, those are small percentages of those total amounts of those grants. So just so that everyone knows that we.
And I'm glad you asked, because
Yeah.
the government tells you the range. So they tell you you have to have an evaluator, and they kind of tell you what percent of the grant you spend on it.
Okay.
So those are pretty tight, and you don't just kind of decide what you want to do with it. They expect for you to stay within the range.
So you're saying that if it were an excessive amount for this contract, they would tell us?
They tell us the percent.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion is considered passed. I believe we moved to the last item on our agenda for this evening, and it is recommended that the board approve changes to three items. Board policies 5,000, students, and 6210 fiscal planning and budgeting. I think there was a third one with respect to just the elimination of a policy. Anyway, let me read the recommendation again. It's recommended the board approve changes to board policies 5,000 students and 6210 fiscal planning and budgeting. Okay? So is there a motion and second on this item?
Move for approval?
Second.
Moved by Glenna, seconded by Tom, and board members have copies of the new sheet of policies, and then also the changes that were made, and I know that several of you were on this committee. Any comments about your work?
Well, it's been an interesting endeavor. David has been faithful to keep us plowing through the old policies, which desperately needed updating, and then bringing it into a form that is useful for our district and their current circumstances. And the items that we're going to cover today is just one portion of this, of all the policies that we've been looking at. So this is a portion we've managed to get through up to this point, and it covers everything from bullying to religious holidays, so a whole myriad of subjects were looked at by my fellow board members, Ann Duff, Julie Hollingsworth, and then, of course, we had David Amon and Deborah Faye Williams-Robbins from the administration helping us. And then this time, Kathy Friend had to help us because we also needed to update, and this was very important that we do this because of the changes in our budgeting that was passed by the legislature. So we especially wanted to highlight that 6210, the fiscal planning and budgeting policy, is included in this batch at this time because we needed to indicate the way we operate with the new budgeting structures that have been passed by the legislature.
Any other comments? I see that there's been a change or a deletion of corporal punishment. Are you bringing back paddling?
We are not.
Okay.
I'd just like to add, the absolute faithfulness of the committee members. I appreciate Glenna giving you an overview, but the board members take this seriously. And I rarely see one of them missing the meetings. They come prepared and they do a lot of hard work. So I appreciate David leading that, but it wouldn't work if you didn't show up. So board members have been extremely faithful to that process. I appreciate that.
Good. Thank you for your work, folks. My understanding is that once we pass these this evening, that our communications team will then post the new policies on our website, so they are available for public view after this meeting. So thank you. We've got a motion and second on the floor. If there aren't any questions, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The new policies and booklet are approved. That concludes the business before us. Any comments from board members this evening?
I have nothing.
None this
Comment?
evening.
No comments.
Okay, great. Then I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Are there members of the audience who would like to address us before we go home? Find your shovels, folks.